What is good, you guys? This video is going to be a little bit different. I just wanted to share my thoughts on a subject that I'm pretty passionate about, and I don't think it's talked about enough in our society, especially not in my generation. But before I get into it, if you like this subject matter and you want to see more videos like this, make sure to hit that subscribe button as I drop videos every single week, and hit that like button for me so I know you're enjoying this one. All right, let's get into it. Now, I love to sleep, and I'm not embarrassed to say that either. It seems like in my generation, it's almost a badge of honor to have terrible sleep habits, and it's like taboo to say that you like to sleep in and you enjoy going to bed early. Whether it's the fear of missing out on the nights that our friends are hanging out, or working jobs that make us wake up at ungodly hours, it seems like we can never get enough sleep, and we definitely can never make up on sleep during the weekends or days we have off. Now, I used to suffer from a bunch of issues like mental fatigue and social anxiety, but I always attributed these to other factors and never really thought about them as having to do with my sleep patterns. But one night I was up way too late and I stumbled across the Joe Rogan podcast, and on this episode he had a so-called sleep expert talking about the importance of getting 8 hours of sleep every single night. I watched the entirety of the podcast and ended up even doing more research into this guy whose name was Matthew Walker, and I actually ended up even buying his book on sleep, which is called Why We Sleep: Unlocking the Power of Sleep and Dreams. Now, Matthew Walker is a professor of neuroscience and psychology at Berkeley, a former professor of psychiatry at Harvard, and he's the founder and director of the Center for Human Sleep Science. So it's pretty fair to say the guy knows what he's talking about, and I can attest that by implementing the things that he shares in his book, I've gotten the best sleep of my life, and it's affected other areas in my life positively that I had no idea even had to do with sleep. According to Matt, sleep is the single most effective thing we can do to reset our brain and body health each day. Mother Nature's best effort yet at contra death. Now, it truly cannot be stated how important a good night's sleep is and how detrimental a bad night of sleep is. I mean, we're all taught that you need to get your 8 hours of sleep every night, but it seems to be one of those life lessons that just goes to the wayside as we get older, like eating your vegetables and getting your exercise. Just one of those things we don't think is actually that important. But just like those other two things, this is an area of your life that you definitely shouldn't be ignoring, and sacrificing this can have some detrimental effects on your health. Now, I definitely understand the tendency to want to cut sleep short. I mean, there's only 24 hours in a day and you want to make the most out of it. I know, but the truth is you truly can't get the most out of your days if you're not getting the right amount of sleep. It just can't happen. In fact, when it comes down to attempting to accomplish your job effectively without getting enough sleep, Matt says the irony that employees miss is that when you're not getting enough sleep, you work less productively and thus need to work longer to accomplish a goal. This means you often must work longer and later into the evening, arrive home later, go to bed later, and need to wake up earlier, creating a negative feedback loop. Now, I know we can all relate to that, bringing some work home or not getting your work done, or having to work late to work overtime and needing to work earlier than again the next morning. It's happened to me, it happens at most jobs, and it truly has more detrimental effects than we tend to notice, especially once we get into the habit of doing it and it becomes the way that we just do things. This was such an important revelation for me to understand how detrimental getting 5 to 6 hours of sleep was, because I always thought I was one of those people who could function just fine with less than 8 hours. But after reading Matt's book and implementing the things he talks about in it, taking my sleep seriously, I understood that I wasn't even operating at a fraction of my full potential, and I was getting jobs accomplished so much more quicker than I ever thought possible. The little bit of like cognitive fog that I would feel in the middle of the day was erased, and I found that my thinking and actions were much more deliberate. In essence, I was able to think much more effectively and accomplish tasks much more quickly simply because I was well rested. And I promise, no matter how well you think you can accomplish a task, sleeping just 5 hours a night, you're not even operating at a fraction of your potential, and Matt would agree with me. In case you're wondering, the number of people who can survive on 5 hours of sleep or less without any impairment, expressed as a percentage of the population and rounded to a whole number, is 0. But even beyond the cognitive effects of not getting enough sleep, there are some serious physical side effects that go hand in hand with improper sleep habits, and these start to manifest after just shorting yourself 1 hour of sleep every night. Alzheimer's, dementia, some forms of cancer, and even some behavioral disorders such as ADHD and social anxiety can be attributed to poor sleep conditions. There's a huge amount of Americans who are taking medications that could potentially be rendered useless if they simply corrected their sleep patterns. patterns. The worst part about this is that American doctors are not expected to do extensive training on sleep, and they only have to complete around 10 hours of sleep education, even though humans spend more than a third of their lives in bed. This means it's much more likely for a doctor to prescribe you a medication with potentially life-altering side effects than to diagnose whether or not the issues stem from a lack of quality sleep. I'm not blaming doctors for this. I understand that sleep studies is not a huge area of focus in med school, but I would like to make the argument that it should be taken much more seriously, and Matt definitely agrees with me too. He claims no matter what you may have heard or read in popular media, there is no scientific evidence we have suggesting that a drug, a device, or any amount of psychological willpower can replace sleep. The importance of sleep in this seemingly constant world that we live in cannot be overstated. In the digital age, it seems like we're always being stimulated by something, whether it be our phones, computers, televisions. We're constantly encouraged to be awake and consuming some form of content. This perpetual stream of content and information makes us value being awake and almost dread going to sleep. Also, it's very difficult to even get a restful night's sleep after taking in the amount of blue light that we do from our TVs, phones, and computers every day. But you gotta put down that phone, turn on the TV before bed, pick up a book, do something to get yourself into some better sleep habits, because it cannot be overstated how important sleep is to living healthy and fulfilling lives. To emphasize this point one last time, I'll leave you with this last quote by Matt. He says, "The shorter your sleep, the shorter your life. The leading cause of disease and death in developed nations, diseases that are crippling healthcare systems, such as heart disease, obesity, dementia, diabetes, and cancer, all have recognized causal links to a lack of sleep." Alright guys, that is the video. Thank you so much for watching. I just wanted to share my relatively newfound passion on healthy sleep and my appreciation for the work that Matt is doing to get the word out on how important it is to get your 8 hours every night. If you want to check out this book that I've been talking about, Why We Sleep, Unlocking the Power of Sleep and Dreams by Matthew Walker, I will leave a link to it in the description. And if you got sleepy while watching this, make sure to go right to bed. I want to make sure you get your 8 hours tonight and you wake up ready to go tomorrow. Thanks for watching guys. Bye for now.